Good evening and welcome to the FITT Show. Financial information for today and tomorrow. Bobby P. Kinzer,
And I'm Thomas Doty.
and we are the FITT Show. Financial information for today and tomorrow here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How you doing today, Doty? You're on mute. You got to take yourself off of mute, my brother.
That was my bad. I hit the wrong button. I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, good brother?
Man, if I looked as good as you look, I'd be absolutely stupendous. So, Dope, last week we
You got
talked about
jokes.
taking control of your finances for 2023. And this week we got a very interesting topic, you all. And it's about the financial education about money, financial literacy, really. And the topic is what you don't know can hurt you. So we're going to get into that. But before we start off, I just want to remind you, please click on the like button and the heart button. That gives us better traction and better, more exposure to more people. And please put comments into the comment section because that helps us gain even more exponentially. It expands the algorithms. Don't you on mute again? I don't know what's up with your computer, but it keeps switching. So, but anyway, you probably did that on purpose. So, with that, you all, let's start with our topic right at the top of the hour. The most interesting. I get a lot of comments about the stock market update, though. So, we're hoping you're going to give us some good news.
Yeah, well, things have been going pretty good, but it's still full of volatility right now. Last week, the Dow's up almost 1,000 points, up 904 points, about 3%. But Nasdaq has been doing really well, and that's mostly because everybody's thinking that the Fed's going to lighten up on raising interest rates, and those stocks are so interest rate sensitive that whenever there's some positive news, you see a big uptick in the market. And so Nasdaq's up 6%, and the tech stocks pretty much followed them. Microsoft's up 7% or 16 points. The Tesla's up 33 points, 26%. They had great results. Their last that reported was great results. And they're starting to act more like a regular car company instead of a tech car company because they offered these huge rebates at the end of the year to push sales. And they have way more orders right now than they can produce. So things are going pretty well for Tesla, and you see the results in the stock price increase. They got a lot of challenges and still a lot of things to overcome, but it things went well with the last quarter results, and everybody's pretty happy. Apple's up about 6.7%, which is again about the same as the overall Nasdaq market. Pfizer's still kind of struggling right now, and another big investment firm downrated their stock, and for the same reason that they're thinking they've gotten all the kick they can get out of the pandemic, and they haven't found a way to replace those revenues yet. Even though they have other products in the pipeline, they aren't as sure that they will be as successful as their COVID vaccines and drugs were, and the pandemic seems to be slowing down a little bit. So that's why there's pressure on Pfizer right now. But all in all, things are looking pretty good. There's a couple of crazy things out there, and not that you can do anything about it, but this whole debt ceiling situation could get pretty crazy. And you can see that that represents the obligations that the U.S. owes as far as bondholders and paying bills like Social Security and things of that sort. And if they don't raise the debt limit, they won't be able to pay those bills. Those are obligations that are already existed. These aren't new obligations that the debt limit would cover. And so it's kind of a weird situation. Some of the Republicans are saying they will not, in the House, they will not agree to raise the debt limit unless there's all these massive cuts, which the Democrats aren't going to go for. And if you eliminate Social Security and Medicare and some of those big items, it's really not even possible to cut some of the things they're talking about cutting. And so pretty much the Fed's out of money now, but they can do some manipulating to keep the U.S. running, probably until a May or June timeframe. At which point, it's possible that the U.S. may default, and if that happens, it's going to create havoc all over the world, because the U.S. Treasury is pretty much the whole world's steady, safe investment. And if the U.S. was to default, that would just create havoc in the market. I'd hate to see what would happen. There's no real example of it ever happening before. Back when Obama was in office, there was a pretty long period where the debt ceiling wasn't approved, but it never got to the point of default. But it did roil the markets back then. So if we were to default, things would get ugly. So keep an eye on that. There's no telling what may happen. I hope they come to some sort of agreement. There's a possibility that there's this obscure law that they could use if they could get a few Republicans to agree, so they could bypass the normal procedures for getting that debt limit increased. So just want to keep you aware of that. Keep your eye on it. Could be crazy.
And though it's not even financial strategies or that they're using, it's purely political, because the same thing happened under Bill Clinton. You know, they held a gun to his head, but he wouldn't do it. You know, he wouldn't give in. And once again, it passed. You know, they raised it. And then the same thing happened with Obama. They threatened and threatened. Same thing, called bluff, and he didn't do it either. But just the threatening of doing it definitely affects the markets. And it's just insane.
But what makes this one different? Supposedly, the only reason McCarthy got the chairmanship, or whatever it's called, a speaker role, was because he agreed that he wouldn't sign to raise the debt limit unless there were these massive spending cuts.
Right.
And they also put in rules to be able to kick him out if they feel like it. And so
it only took one person to bring that to a vote.
This one could be different. I hope it's not, but it could be. Just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and this is the thing, people. It's really, at this point, there's nothing you can do. I mean, we can do as far as, stopping them. But the one thing you can do is really, really, really curb your spending. Should be doing it anyway. But right now, this is not a time to be purchasing big ticket items, especially luxury items, and depleting your cash reserves. This may not be the time to be doing that. You might want to hold and lay low in the grassy knoll to see what they're going to do. It's so crazy, because if you look at the past, and we don't get politically on this show, but that's what they always do. They try to make the Democrats, do the cuts. So it'll be on them. It's a crazy game. But if you don't know the game, you can be caught up. My supercharger company, small company, Ozop, they starting to make some gains. They're very slow, but they moving up a little bit, slowly but surely. And the gold, though, today is up almost $5. It's pushing the $2,000 an ounce mark, which is pretty good. So let's talk about
to go crazy. Your gold will do real well.
I know. The way things been going, though, yeah, that's high in the past, but things so crazy now. I don't even know. I don't know what to believe anymore. That's why you got to have a plan of your own and work it. I want to talk about the cryptocurrency market. Another week. This is another week that is up almost $2,000. That's what, 3 weeks in a row, though. The cryptocurrency market cap is that it's up $74 billion, up to 1 trillion 80 billion. That's about 7%. The Bitcoin, which is still the number one cryptocurrency out of the 21,000 that they are now. And I mean, it's 21,000 cryptocurrencies, but it's only 9,000, which is a lot, that are active. and it's up $1,956, up 9%. So if you got in dope three weeks ago, a month ago, you wouldn't be doing bad at all, actually. Ethereum, the smart contract crypto, is still in the number 2 position, and it's laying even. It's dead even. It didn't go up. It did go up, but by the time when I take these rates, because remember, cryptocurrency is active 24 hours a day. And earlier today, Ethereum was up, but then I looked at it at 7 o'clock when I normally put these in, and it was back down to even. The stable coin, which is USDT, which is Tether, it's up a cent, it's up a penny, and that makes a difference. Dogecoin, all of these top 10 ones are still holding. Well, not top 10 because these first was Dogecoin and Tether, Bitcoin, Ethereum. They're the top 10, but they've been holding, but at that same place. But Shiba Inu is still at number 15, and it's still holding even. So that's what's going on with the cryptocurrency market. And if you just got in it within the last month or so, you're not doing bad. And if you got in it before that, and your cryptocurrency, at least the top 10, were doing bad, they're doing pretty good right now, though. So that's something to be thankful for, especially in these days and times. What's going on? So, Dope, let's talk a little bit about our subject today.
Yeah, Bob, you touched on it last week, and it was talking about just financial literacy in general, and learning how important it is and what it can cost you for not knowing. And it's funny because most people don't think it costs them that much by not being financially literate. You and I obviously believe it costs a great deal of money to you for not being financially literate. And that's what we're going to talk about. And, you learn a lot of different things, but that's one thing you don't learn in the classroom is about finance and all the things you should know before you reach adulthood. And it's exaggerated by the fact a lot of parents don't know enough to teach their kids about financial literacy because they weren't taught. And so you pretty much go out into the world not knowing, and you have to figure things out on your own, which kind of puts you at a disadvantage when you don't know, and then you start making mistakes, and it can put you further and further in the hole.
Yeah, well, I'd like to welcome my good friend and colleague, man, Tommy Thompson. Tommy, yes, this is today, January 26th program. Tommy was on last week. He thought he was on the live show, Dope, but he was on the old. And I'm gonna start, making sure I put the dates on these so people understand which show they're into. So yeah, Tommy, you're in the right place this week, my brother. Good to see you out there too, Tommy. So just want to say, Dope, it's so interesting when the topic of financial literacy, and that's true and near to my heart. But I did want to show, one of these graphs. We showed it last week, and I want to bring it up again this week, where it showed how much did lack of financial literacy cost people in 2002. It was a survey done by the National Financial Educators Council. That's actually where my certification for being a financial educator and financial education instructor comes from. And they did this in between October 23 and December 5th of 2022. So these are real statistics. And if you look at that, 15% of people have lost up to $10,000 or more due to lack of financial education. And then you got the lower end, which I still think is too much. 62% of people have lost at least, and this is just average, you all, a measurement that they try to come up with. I think they surveyed about 3,000 people. Yeah, 3,001 people. But just look at that. Just not knowing, though, not having a financial education, at least 62% of the people, or actually, I didn't even, hold on, I didn't even have it up. Forgive me. Thought I had it up, and I didn't. Let me just
But, you
show
know,
you.
and Bob, you think about all the different ways it can affect you. If you don't know what affects your credit score, you got a bad credit score that you could have improved. You get a loan at a rate that's higher than you should be. And let's say it's for your house. You're paying for that for 30 years. I mean, it can hit you for years if you don't know the things you should know financially. So to me, these numbers are grossly understated of how much it can really cost you, because this says it doesn't cost you much. And we always talk about compounding as a positive, but bad moves or bad mistakes also compound. So when you don't know, and you the example I use, pay a higher interest rate, or don't take advantage of certain benefits you may have, that money, the opportunity cost of that money over years can become considerable. And it can be way more, to me anyway. I think it could be way more than the numbers illustrated in this graph, where only 15% feel it could be over $10,000. I think over most people's life, it can be way more than that. And I think the cost of literacy is huge, something you should pay attention to and really learn so as to maximize all of your financial decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that is truly something to really think about, though, because those are some real true statistics, and uh, really need to pay attention to those. I just want to state, though, that like I was beginning to say, one of the things that always driven me, I get really excited, was financial literacy, financial education. This has been true and dear to me, and that's why I do it and teach it for so long. It's been over at least 20 years now that I've been involved. Even though I worked for the FDIC and did it within the FDIC, I also did it in a nonprofit called Life Literacy Institute for Financial Enrichment. And you can go out there on financialenrichment.org and check it out. It's a nonprofit organization. I'm a president, and we've been teaching financial literacy in the DMV for over 20, up to 20. This is our 20th year, actually. But when it comes to money matters, it's no question that what you don't know can hurt you. Now, compounding problems associated with financial illiteracy, financial decision making is likely getting more onerous for consumers. There are four trends that are converging that demonstrate the importance of making thoughtful and informed decisions about finances. One is some groups may be falling behind. Now, FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Agency, the ones who regulate the stockbrokers and mutual funds, they had a study that found that the gap between the haves and the have-nots have been widening. The study also revealed that disparities among different ethnic groups, with the white and Asian adults showing more proficiency than that of Black and Hispanic survey responders. The second one that they finding out, the trend that's happening, consumers are starting to shoulder more financial decisions. Retirement planning is an example of the increasing responsibilities Americans must take for their own financial security. Because remember, though, back in the day, the pension plans were defined benefit plans, and your company had professional money management managers managing your pension. But now they're passing that responsibility for people to manage their own financial retirement plans, like 401ks and 403b, 457 plans, and even 529 plans for a college fund. So that's another trend that is starting to converge. And number three is savings and investing options are more complex. These products are more sophisticated than they were in the past, requiring consumers to select from the different options that offer varying interest rates and maturities. Now, decisions they often are not adequately educated to make, though. And the fourth one is the financial environment has changed considerably. The quickly changing environment created by technological advances, such as electronic trading, makes financial markets even swifter and more volatile. Taken together, these factors can cause conflicting views and difficulty in creating, implementing, and following a financial roadmap. Now, one of the things that got me into financial literacy and promoting and teaching it is that the frustrations about people not knowing the basic information. Like they can tell you what's going on with their favorite TV show, but can't tell you what's going on with their money. Every parent wants to teach their kids everything they need to know to be successful in the world, but if they don't know financial literacy themselves, how can they even pass it on? So that's why we want to get into our subject tonight. What you don't know can hurt you, and it's all about financial literacy. And let me tell you though, a lot of people think they really know about financial education, but do they?
Yeah, and let's start, Bob. We'll talk about the wealth gap a little bit. And we don't pretend to be sociologists, and we also don't have our head in the sand. We know, especially for people of color, there's a racism factor that plays into lack of knowledge. I mean, sometimes there's redlining. You can't get into a neighborhood that has houses that grow at a faster rate. There's gentrification. There's access to credit that you may not be able to get. There's inferior education. So there's a bunch of reasons related to that, which we aren't going to get into. That's not what we're about. We're going to talk about the knowledge side of it, the part that you can control, because the other stuff is hard. I mean, obviously everybody should be fighting for social justice for everybody, but that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the other part of it, which is you getting knowledge to manage your own finances, to understand all the things that affect your finances, to understand why you should be on top of your finances and how that can play a role in you building wealth for the future, and how it can hurt you when you aren't on top of things. Now, the funny thing about it is one of those, you don't know what you don't know. There's money is available for you to save. There's money available or things available for you to take advantage of. And if you don't know, you don't know. And that's a sad situation, but you have to try to find out. And a lot of times you can know, and you just don't. Some people don't want to take the time to do the research, to do the work necessarily to stay on top of it. And I, for one, believe that those decisions in and of themselves, one individual decision may not make a huge difference, but when you add up all the things that could happen, or all the things that you could take advantage of, or all the things that are available, it can be significant. And I'm not talking pennies, I'm talking dollars that can go by the wayside. And so there are things you can control, there's things outside of your control. Our focus tonight is going to be on you controlling what you can control, you taking the time, putting the time in, putting the effort in to get on top of things, to stay on top of things, to know when you don't know, to find out when you don't know, to talk to people who do know when you don't know. And that's one of the major things is talking to people who have been through what you're about to go through. And I'm as guilty of that as everybody else. This is an education for me too. I wish I had spoken to people who had gotten on Medicare maybe 4 or 5 years before I did, just to have picked up some things. And I think I would have been more prepared. And there were a couple of things I could have done that would have enriched my own personal situation, but I didn't do it. But that's why we're trying to get this information across to you folks, so you cannot make those same mistakes that we made. And that's what we're about here, is passing on information. But you have to get the drive to want to know, to want to understand, to want to build wealth. And that's the only way you can do it, is by getting information. And the information is so readily available now. You do have to be careful that all information is a good information, but there are enough legitimate sources out there that you can get the information you need to do what you have to do.
So, Doe, explain that the wealth gap graph here between white and black. We always hear about it, but these are some statistics that shows that, first of all, those are some amazing numbers.
Yeah, this is really crazy. Let's start with 2016. It says let's stick to percentiles, 50 percentile. That means they're 50% higher and there's 50% lower. And so if you look at white folks, the 50 percentile for wealth is 163,000. That means 50% of the people are higher than that, 50% are lower. Now, if you look at for black folks, it's the yellow line at the bottom, and it's 16,000. So as the note says, it's over 10 times higher. The wealth gap is 10 times. I mean, that's huge. Even if you go to the 75th percentile for black folks, it's only up to about 85 or up to 100,000, and that's for the 75th percentile. So there's still a huge gap between what white folks make and what black folks make, or their wealth. And again, some of it is related to the legacy of slavery and racism and all that stuff. But honestly, some of it's related to the fact that we don't know and we continue not to know. And not knowing is a problem, but continuing not to know shouldn't happen. And that's what we're trying to do. And this this chart's kind of funny, and it's kind of explains how the world works. When you look at the holdings of family wealth, the top 10%, it's kind of crazy. They hold most of the wealth in this country. The bottom 50%, that's that little black line at the bottom. They hold next to nothing. The 51st to 90th percentile has a little bit, but as you can see, most of the wealth is held in the top 10%. And I'm not naive enough to think that there aren't mechanisms in place to make sure it stays that way. But we're trying to give you some tools that can help you increase your own situation and fight through some of the things that are holding you back from building wealth.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like you said, though, it's a fact there are factors out there baked in to keep us from getting ahead. But there's also people make a lot of bad financial decisions and get caught up into emotional buying and things like that. So I just want to talk a little bit, though, about some more of the statistics that are out there. Um, just to let people know that we got to take this seriously, and the following are estimates, and this is the cost associated with the lack of financial knowledge. The National Financial Educators Council said 38% of individuals in the survey said the lack of financial literacy cost them like at least $500. Now, in 2002, the 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 amount of people that lost $10,000 or more was at 15%, but in 2001 it was at 11%. So it's just growing more and more, though. And then the majority of 68%, majority of the people in this survey of 3,000 people said the poor financial literacy cost them somewhere from $0 to $500. Now the average cost was $1,819 according to the survey. Now that 2022 figure is nearly $500 higher than it was a year ago. So as you can see, though, it's just, increasingly lack of financial information is definitely having an impact on people's wealth. Now, a lot of people come out of school without having even been taught literacy in any detail, and they end up just learning from the mistakes. And matter of fact, though, that's how I really learned. It wasn't like I was given a lot of information. It was trial and error. Now, for instance, adults correctly answered on 50% of the $28 basic money questions in 2002, though. Only 50%. They only got half. That's 14 out of 28 from the TIAA Institute of Personal Finance Index, the sixth annual barometer of financial literacy. Worse, the share of respondents, 23% who couldn't correctly answer more than one, is higher than it's been ever before in any survey. So, and we talking about the economy getting worse, though. This is only going to get worse if you do not increase your knowledge on managing your money.
Yeah, and U.S. adults, and that's speaking in general. That's everybody. That's not talking particularly Black folks or anybody. They have there's big gaps in knowledge, and if you think about it, a lot of financial decisions happen before you reach adulthood. I mean, before you're 21 years old, you might have to pay for college or decide how you're going to pay for college. You might get a credit card. I mean, they pass those out when kids are in college now. You might get an auto loan. Your credit score may go to crap. You may have tax bills coming due and not understand withholdings, and you should be thinking about saving for college, even though that's decades away. But those are the things before you even reach full maturity, you can make mistakes in those items, And so if in a perfect world, financial literacy should start when you're a teenager, when you're in high school, if not before. Because again, you got to make decisions like picking a college and making an economically sound decision, not overpaying for a college and not getting yourself strapped with loans if there are other options that you could make that would be financially better for you. And you're going to make better financial decisions if you have some financial literacy, And so the sooner you start, the sooner you can start making better decisions. And the terrible thing about it is when you make poor decisions, you end up getting yourself in a hole, which leads you down the path of making more poor decisions. And the system or the rules are such that once you get behind, it's hard to get ahead. It's real hard to get ahead, And so if you have a good credit score, you probably won't default on a loan. If you have some financial know-how, you're probably going to do things a lot better than if you don't have a basic understanding to understand what you should be doing and the ramifications of poor decisions,
My sister Nolia and Garnett says, this is depressing.
No,
and
it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be depressing.
Stop that foolishness. Don't stop the foolishness.
No, we gotta look. This is opportunity. When you know better. I think that's Maya Angelou's quote. When you know better, do better. But just start from here and start making good decisions. Start passing this information on, and we can't worry about what's happened. That's done, over with. It's in the past. Start from here. And try to get your arms around things. That's all we can do. Otherwise, yeah, it is depressing if you just want to talk about where we are, but try to focus on where you're going and where you can get to, and it's empowering, I think.
And so me and Dote had a discussion, and when we were putting this together, and Dote said even when he started at the top talking about the economy and what's happening on Capitol Hill, which is also depressing. And this information we're giving to you right now may seem depressing. But the good thing about it, you could do something about it. You know what I'm saying? And because if you don't know, if you walk around going to tiptoeing to the tulip, do, just spending freely and just thinking things are just, happy go lucky, you could be tripped up. Now, Kitty said, I'm so glad I didn't get that credit card in college. Smart one, Kitty.
Me too. Had I got one in college, I would have, because I didn't get one, I couldn't buy nothing, and I couldn't make any foolish mistakes. So it wasn't financial discipline, and it was the fact that nobody would give me a credit card that helped get me on the right path because I didn't have any debt. And by the time I got one, I had learned how to manage without one, and so things kind of fell into place for me.
There's a good on Prime Video, Borrowed Future about student loans. Y'all need to go out there and look at it, man, because you know a lot of people got a lot of debt from school, and they were told, "Hey, you know, go to college and it's gonna be your savior." But you really need to have more information than just going, "I'm gonna go to college," and you just thought you were going to get a job. Nah, it takes more information than that. Hey, Modestine said, unfortunately, a lot of parents use their kids' social security numbers and ruin their credit too.
Ah,
That's another
that's
one.
depressing.
That's depressing, and that's another one, Modestine. And thank you, Maddie Ford said it's great information. It's never too late to learn
Right.
financial literacy. That is definitely a true one, Maddie. But yeah, we're not trying to be gloom and doom, y'all. We're just trying to provide information so you don't get slipped up. Because remember my motto: if you're digging yourself in a rut, in a whole financial rut, what are you gonna do? You grab a shovel, or grab a ladder. So
Yeah,
let's talk about. Go
and the
ahead.
sad part about it, there's no real push to learn financial literacy. All I see on TV now is gambling commercials, which is another mechanism to make a few. It goes back to that who holds the wealth. All these gambling commercials are gonna make a few people rich and a whole lot of people poor. And it's almost like you have to avoid commercials and understand that they have a motive that's not in your favor. Okay. Their motive is to make themselves money, not to help you. It's to sell you something that's going to help them get richer. And that's the same thing you're seeing with gambling now. It's every commercial, they got some celebrity pushing gambling, and yeah, it's terrible. It's just bad. You got to understand that and avoid commercials at all costs. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, and don't that's why at least the last this last year only 24 states, right? 24 states require that kids take a in high school take a personal finance class before they can graduate. Now, before that, a year or two before that, it was only 17. But still, 24 out of 50 states do not require uh, high school students to take a personal finance course. It's like I said, it was almost designed that they don't want you to know. Because I
Well,
think people
and
forget that we're a capitalistic society and what that means.
yeah, I'm not a conspiracy theory person, but I just think things are set up to keep the rich people rich and keep the poor people poor. And if you don't pay attention and get on top of things and manage things yourself and just like watch commercials and buy stuff based on impulse and the way social media gears you towards certain products and certain thoughts and certain patterns. If you get caught up in that, you will end up keeping the rich people rich and keeping yourself poor. But if you sit back and we always talk about getting a sheet of paper, talking about what your goals are, what your spending is, what your savings are for you, not based on a commercial or what somebody's pushing, or you want this car because some pretty girl driving a car, or you want this diamond because it does something for you. But talk about what you need. That's the only way to get out of this rut. Otherwise, you'll continue to keep the rich folks rich and the poor folks will stay poor.
Nolia said, keep hope alive. Can't even use that no more. No, Bob Hope is dead, so hope is gone. So look, Modestine said they putting gambling out there, and then they tell you if you need help, call the gambling hotline.
Yeah, but that's in little writing at the bottom. You got to have your reading glasses to even see the number.
Yeah,
They don't
it's a
they
game.
don't want you, and they support that. They probably get rich off of that too. It's the game is rigged. The
It's
game, and you have
definitely
to
is.
understand the rules, and you have to act accordingly. And everything is rigged to keep the rich folks rich. And again, I hope you don't think I'm crazy or a conspiracy theorist, but that's the way things are set up.
Well, though, right now I'm working on a book called "How to Keep from Getting Got." the consumer's guide to overcoming marketeers, salespeople, and scammers. So be on the lookout because everybody's trying to get that extra dollar out your pocket. And if you don't understand what's going on, you can get caught up and they can be having your hand in both your pockets. So, Dope, want to talk about that. This one is your family's smooth financial knowledge transfer. So your family's financial knowledge transfer. Oh, before I go any further, I just want to give full disclosure that me and Dope get a lot of this information from Kiplinger, and we also today getting information from TD and Ameritrade. So these are places that you can go out there, you all, that have good information. They're not just always trying to sell you products. When you go to like most of them have like consumer education or their financial education portals. They're pretty good. They're pretty good, and it's free information. But let's talk about financial knowledge transfer, though, which is a big one that a lot of people don't think about, because a lot of families just don't communicate that well with financial information. And there's more to creating and sharing a financial literacy legacy than simply, making sure your loved ones know where their accounts are and what the passwords are. Although, that's good to share that kind of information. But, a smooth financial knowledge transfer is a prudent and powerful gift. If you or your spouse aren't already piloting the household budget, college savings and retirement are not piloting the household budget, college savings and retirement nest building, it's never too late to begin sharing these duties. It can lighten the load and it can keep a spouse in the know should, the unforeseen happen. Now, at least household members who shoulder this important job should consider the value of continuity of operations. Take, for instance, the Fortune 500 companies. They typically put a succession plan in place so when the CEO, the chief executive operating officer, moves out of the corner office and another slides in. Now, why can't we mindset this feature in your own household? What's wrong with grooming a spouse or your child or grandchild to jump into financial markets, speak about stocks, speak the language about bonds and commodities and cryptocurrency, and invest with the confidence that you got to the point of even having a financial legacy to pass on? So consider transferring that family financial knowledge, you all, is very important for generational wealth.
Yeah, and okay, give you an example. A few things that just can put you in a bigger hole. Something as simple as buying a car. The first decision: do you buy? Do you lease? And you can't look at buying a car as an investment because that's definitely not an appreciating asset. And if you think in terms of only buying appreciating assets, a car isn't one of those. As soon as you buy it, it's worth less than you paid for it, and it continues to depreciate over its life. And so if you think about buying or leasing, you look at the options, there's pros and cons of each, and you need to understand those in the context of your particular situation and what your savings goals are. A lot of people are going to make the emotional decision and get the more expensive car with all the bells and whistles. It's hard to walk away from that. But if you can really step back and look at it and make the decision best for you, you might end up buying a 2 or 3 year old car that has a warranty, that costs a lot less, the payments a lot less, the loans a lot less, you're paying for it, you might be able to pay for it for a shorter period of time. And that's just one example of you make the wrong decision, you got the higher note for 5, 6, or now they're financing cars for 7 years, okay? And so that's just one example of a decision that you can make that could have far-reaching effects for whether or not you're going to reach your financial goal and whether or not you're going to build wealth, because a car is definitely not an appreciating asset.
So there's another topic that we need to know about that we think we know about. I'm not sure we really understand about how the tax brackets actually work. Because there's a misconception that the federal income taxes that you are in, whatever tax brackets you're in, that your whole salary is being taxed at that rate. So I just want to share a video that just simplifies this, because we have the progressive tax rate, we have the marginal tax rate, and we have the effective tax rate. But what does that all mean? So I want to share this video with you all, and hopefully this can clear it up a little bit.
Have you ever heard somebody worry that getting a raise would bump them into a higher tax bracket? The idea that having a higher salary could somehow mean making less money sounds wrong, and it is. This fear is based on a common misconception about federal income taxes. So let's look at how tax brackets actually work. The main misconception is that being in a certain tax bracket means that all your income gets taxed at that rate. That's not how it works. U.S. federal income taxes are progressive, which means additional income is taxed at a higher rate. But, and here's the key, tax rates are marginal, which means not all your income is taxed at the same rate. Income is actually divided into different levels or brackets that have different tax rates. Each dollar of income is only taxed at the rate of the bracket it falls into. Think of these brackets like a series of buckets. Each bucket holds a certain amount of money and is taxed at a certain rate. The government determines the size and rates for each bucket and usually adjusts them each year. The ones we're showing here are for 2020. So suppose your taxable income was $55,000. As of 2020, the first bucket holds $9,875 and is taxed at 10%. Then in the next bucket, you pay 12% on $30,250, and so on. The rate of the highest bucket your money starts filling is your marginal tax rate, what people often call their tax bracket. So in this example, only $14,875 of taxable income is taxed at 22%. But because your income falls into multiple tax brackets, the overall rate you actually pay is typically much less than the marginal rate. The percentage you actually pay in taxes is called your effective tax rate. However, determining your effective tax rate is more complicated than just taking your salary and averaging all the brackets it would fit into. That's because not all your income actually gets taxed. There are exemptions and deductions that could reduce the amount of income that's taxable. You could also get credits that reduce how much you owe. We won't get into the details in this video, but the IRS provides calculators that can help you determine your taxable income. The important thing to understand is that your effective tax rate is the total amount you paid in taxes, divided by your taxable income, which accounts for things like deductions. So next time you worry about which tax bracket you fall into and how big that new percentage is, remember that it's just your marginal tax rate. Your effective tax rate, the amount you're actually paying, is likely much lower. Thanks for...
Dope. Were you able to hear that, Dope?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was great information, Bob. And that's kind of where you got to start, because that's everybody's taxed. And you got to understand, that's what me and Bob keep talking about. You got to understand the rules of the game. You can't play the game unless you understand the rules.
Dope.
You got to understand taxes.
I bet you most people did not know that's what was going on with their taxes. And that's amazing, right? I'm talking about all these years been paying taxes and thinking they're paying one big tax rate, the marginal rate. But that laid it out so plain. But this is a perfect example, though, of what you don't know could hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you got to find ways to identify and optimize your opportunities. And we've talked about these before. And you know, if you're talking about your employee benefits, there's 5 things you have to understand. You know, has your family situation changed? You know, how much are you contributing to your retirement plan? You have to make sure you're putting money in there. You know, how much do you spend on medical expenses if you have a medical account? You know, are you protecting your future? A lot of companies offer disability insurance. And when I was younger, in the middle, 30s, 40s, 50s, you're told you're more likely to get disabled than you are to be killed. So you should look at disability, a group disability insurance through your job, because it's usually pretty inexpensive, and that's more likely to happen than death. Even though The group life insurance is pretty cheap. So you got to make sure you're protecting your future and your families. Check to make sure you're not leaving any benefits on the table. That's a part of your pay. Companies have these benefits. People don't take advantage of them. If you can get commuter benefits, make sure you're taking advantage. Some people don't want to go through the effort to do that. Oh, that's only a few dollars. But a few dollars here, a few dollars there, compounded over your life is a lot of money. Look for discounts for local businesses or events. A lot of companies give fitness center reimbursement. So if you're paying for a gym, your company might subsidize part of that. They might give adoption assistance. They have an educational assistance program. Make sure you take advantage of that and make sure you understand it so you can optimize that. They may only pay a certain amount. So maybe you only take certain classes or the amount of classes that up to the amount that they cover. Some of them have student loan assistance. People don't find out about the benefits that are offered by their company. Another big one that I missed in my first move, I think I've told you before, I moved 9 times with PPG, but the first time I moved, I didn't read the relocation manual. Again, to understand every benefit that was available to me. And a mistake I made one time. The next time I moved, I made sure I had that thing memorized, and I got every advantage that I should have. You got to take advantage of opportunities that are out there, that are easy to get to. It just takes a little bit of effort for you to read through, to understand, to know what's available, and to take advantage of it.
So, staying on the topic of identifying and optimizing your opportunities, we talk about this one a lot, but we have to mention it because it falls under taking advantage of the opportunities. Credit card rewards, cash rewards on credit cards. That's a big one, you all. I mean, and it's tax-free. It's tax-free. That's the other thing. And a lot of people are afraid to use them, but it's a savings. And hey, Dope, do you mind sharing with us your cash rewards that you got for 2022?
Yeah, just on one card. I could not believe it. On my one card I use for most everything, I got $1,342, $1,342 cash back. Now, there's a little disclaimer because one big item I paid for was my property taxes, and they charged like a 1.2% service charge to use it, but my credit card pays me back 3%. So I only made that difference. But all the other, that was the only exception. Everything else was a pure in my pocket money. And it was just using the credit card for everything. Now, I also make sure I pay it off every month so I don't pay interest because that would subtract from what I save. But that's
Right.
just on one credit card. That doesn't count the card I use for my Hilton and getting points for there, or the card I use for Whole Foods and Amazon. Everything I buy from there, I get 5% back from them and get cash back. So it's just a matter of taking advantage what's there, and it's available. It's available.
On you, Dope.
Okay, the next one is managing good debt and bad debt, and we beat this one before. And it's paying off your high interest rates first and making sure you don't get a lot of bad debt. And just like with the car, if it's more than you should spend, if it's more than you can afford, it's bad debt. That's not how you build your wealth. Yeah, it has the bells and whistles, but in 10 years, it's going to be a hunk of steel in a junkyard somewhere. That's all a car is, and you have to look at it like that. It's just a vehicle to get you from point A to point B if you're trying to build wealth, okay? And stay away from those payday loans, those high interest credit card loans. And to me, credit card debt is the devil. That's just like the gambling thing. If you gotta, and again, I'm not talking about people who are in a situation where they have to use credit cards to survive. We're talking about the folks who just can't say no, who fall prey to trying to keep up with the Joneses or the marketing schemes by companies and just go out and buy things that they don't need to buy. But you got to learn to handle your credit card and use it for your use, not for the credit card companies.
Right. Next one is discounts and coupons. Now, a lot of people know because you used to get the paper and clip off the coupons, but now they all online. And one of the things is the discounts, the coupons, is knowing when to buy at the right time, and certain items to buy at certain times, like those seasonal items. It's so many out there, especially online now, that it makes it so easy that you can really, and my wife Tiffany, she's really up on that. She be getting every discount out there. She uses and makes sure. And sometimes I'm like, God dang, did you go? I'm like, man, and I'll be mad. Then I look how much we save, and I'm like, thank you, baby. Because it does sometimes take time, It takes time to go out there and search as opposed to just going right out there, going to the store and buying what you want. But you can save a lot of money on discounts and coupons.
Yeah, and as far I'm sorry, Bob.
No.
And as far as investing, there's 6 things, 6 simple rules. That if you had to narrow it down to 6 things to tell anybody about investment, and the first and most important is contribute early and often. Second, you want to minimize fees and taxes. Third, you want to be diversified. Fourth, you want to consider your horizon and how long you expect to be investing for. Fifth, you want to focus on your long-term goals. And finally, the one that ties it all together, understand what you're investing in. Do the necessary work so you know that you're buying something that fits your situation, that fits your time horizon, that fits your risk tolerance, that fits you. And you know how it works, you understand how it works, and you know exactly what your investing is. But that's the summary of what you should know as far as investing.
The last one is promoting financial empowerment, meaning one person at a time. An informed person is a confident person, especially when equipped with unique insights and strategies to identify financial goals, tolerate risk, develop an investment style, and learn how to allocate the right mix of assets that can form the foundation of your wealth plan. Now, understanding building wealth, we always talk about it, it's not easy. However, if you take one step at a time to build a sound financial education foundation, you will create a legacy that will pass on for generations. Financial knowledge is indeed powerful, although there are bound to be a few gaps in everyone's financial literacy. The good news is that there's a wide range of investing education resources to help. Articles, videos, webcasts, streaming videos, and so specific places you get, and it's free, an abundance of information. Is FDIC Money Smart. Go under FDIC.gov and go right out there under Money Smart and find out all kinds of tools you can download for kids, parents, elderly, high school, college, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB. They have a consumer education department with a lot of information, and it is free. So, really consider going out there and get some of that information, because today out there is a lot of information that can be gained. Dope, let's bring it on home with the summary and takeaways.
Okay, first, you plan for tomorrow by educating yourself today. Put that investment in yourself with knowledge, with investigating things, looking into it, taking the time, putting time away to understand your financial situation, where you want to go, what you're trying to do. Invest in yourself.
You can't play the game if you don't know the rules. So it's so important to empower yourself with the information to make sound financial decisions.
It's never too early to start with basic, age-appropriate financial literacy. That's from explaining to kids that they can't have everything they want, or if they have this, they can't have that, or that there's a limited supply of finances or a limited supply of choices to buy. It's never too early. The sooner you start, the less difficulty you're going to have down the road.
And lastly, but not least, what you don't know can hurt you. Financial literacy definitely has an impact on your wealth, on your finances, on your stress and emotional being, on your family, on your job, on relationships. So please empower yourself with going out there and learn as much as you can. I know we got a lot going on, but we take time for other things. Let's take more time and empower ourselves with the information that can be showing us a legacy of a lifetime of financial, wealth for our young people. So,
and Bob, and
yo,
it is depressing when you look at where we are, but let's just make a decision to start today to be the best you can be financially from this point on. I mean, that's pretty much all you can do. There's so much out there that we can't control, but this we can control. From today on, we can control what we spend. We can control how much time we put into it. We can control whether we come up with a game plan that's going to help us build wealth. And and we always talk about have fun and enjoy yourself once you do get that wealth. My buddy just told me he don't want to be the richest person in the graveyard. So build enough wealth so you can enjoy yourself and spend it so you won't be the richest person in the graveyard.
Yeah, great show. Went a little long, but there's a lot of information. I'd like to say to all our friends that be checking in every week, we love to give our shout outs. Joanne Skinner said financial information starts early. Thank you, Garnett, for hanging in there with us. Maddie Ford, always. Motor Steen, a stalwart. Joanne, my sister Nolia, and my sister Gloria, and my sister Linda. I love my three sisters be out there supporting me and picking up information and sharing it with a lot of people, because a lot of your friends been contacting me. So thank y'all for that. And just want to say, and my man, Rodney Madison, the noteexperience.com. Go out there and see another alternative investment that you can go out there. Kitty Cheney, as always, the golden Toastmaster persona of all Toastmasters. Thank you for joining us. And once again, I'm glad you caught us this week, Tommy Thompson. Wish you all the best. You've done so much for Prince George's County when you were the director over housing and development in Prince George's County, which, for some of you who don't know, was the richest county per capita for Black people in America. And Tommy was at the FDIC, and RTC did so much for the banking industry. So thank you all. Hope to see you next week. We'll be here once again, the FITT Show. Financial information for today and tomorrow, 8 p.m. every Thursday, Eastern Standard Daylight Time. No, Eastern Standard Time. Thank you. Take care, Dope.